watching him fall in love. They're at the ripe old age of 17. And the other day I said to him, I'm so proud of the way you treat Scarlett. I'm so proud of the way you consider her first all the time and the way you treat her. You're so lovely to her. And he just looked at me and he said, where do you reckon I get it from, Dad?
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders, both past and present. Welcome to Separate Bathrooms. I'm Cam Daddo.
And I'm Ali Daddo.
We've done some retreats in our time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly for growth and learning, always.
I think
Yeah.
always for growth.
Yeah, I guess
Maybe.
so.
I'm just trying to think back on that, but yeah.
Well, they're effective for starting or kickstarting something or dropping deeper into something with purpose.
Yep.
There are all sorts of retreats, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's some amazing, I know I was showing you the other day, there was a writing retreat in the UK that sounded amazing, and one you would love is like a songwriting retreat.
I would actually. I've always wanted to do a songwriting retreat.
Sounds magic.
Yeah. Digital detox retreats there are.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Adventure, yoga.
Spiritual wellness.
Yep.
Couples, of course. Couples retreat.
Yeah. So today we have a couple
Yep.
who run retreats together in the Himalayas, Bali and Australia. They're focused on becoming more conscious individually and in relationship couples.
Yeah, they've really both lived lives that have inspired, and prepared themselves for where they are today. Jem Fuller, his curiosity has led him to study various ancient healing arts, mind practices, and in the last 2 decades, leadership coaching, neuro-linguistic programming. That's
AKA,
a mouthful.
well, it's just, people say NLP.
NLP, that's probably easier.
Yeah.
Human behavioural profiling and
HBP.
There you go. Sounds like, isn't that no, that's H. That's a wart.
That's BHP. No, that's a petroleum company.
No, there's a. My God, we've gone so far off track.
Well, let's talk about mindful meditation,
Okay, let's do
also
that.
known as M&M's. Very tasty.
Yes.
I love the blue ones.
That's right. His wife, Talia, owns and operates a wellness and Pilates studio, a PS.
Yes, a PS.
On the gorgeous surf coast in Torquay, Victoria.
Or Torquay. Depends where you're from.
I was going to say that.
Potato.
Torquay. You can tell I'm a New South Welsh woman.
Yeah, people call, like Guy Pearce, actor.
Yeah.
Talkie boy.
Oh, okay.
Talkie boy.
Got it.
I guess there's talkie girls and talkie boys.
That's like the cool thing to say.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Anyway, these guys have been together for 8 years. They're both in their second marriages. They've blended their family, bringing 2 kids each into the mix. Look, we know there's a lot of you out there that have gone through marriage breakdowns. You've fallen in love again, blended families and moved on, or not, or with differing degrees of success.
Yeah, and we wanted to hear from Jem and Talia and see what works for them and what they're teaching and advocating for in their workshops.
Please welcome Jem and Talia to the bathroom.
Welcome, Jem and Talia, to the bathroom. So lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on.
Thank you.
Coming to us from the south coast, or the surf coast in Victoria today. Lovely part of the world.
Yeah, it is a lovely part of the world, and we were just talking about this earlier. You know, we've actually had something resembling a summer, which is lovely for us Victorians. We're very grateful when we get a string of warm days in a row, and there's actually been some surf as well.
It is a good part of the world. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you both surf?
Oh, I have tried several times, but I have to say I am definitely the earthy girl that likes to have her feet grounded in nature rather than out there in the giant waves trying to not get in the way of really good surfers.
Or really bad surfers like me. I'm not very good. I love it, but I'm not very good.
Well, I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. Talia, I did something at summer. Went to a friend's place. Ali and I went and stayed with some friends at Mansfield, and they live on Lake Eildon. and I paddled out on their stand-up paddleboard and attempted to do some yoga on the, some Pilates moves on the stand-up paddleboard at 6 a.m.
While I watched.
Oh,
you were
impressive.
watching too?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't know I had an audience, but it was really fun. So I'm wondering, is that something you do in your Pilates movement classes?
Well, I can't say that I do them out on water. However, my mum loves to paddleboard, so whenever I visit her, I do like to get out there. Can't say that I've ever tried to do a teaser or a headstand on the board, though.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard enough to do both, actually, let alone combining the two. Mind, it's a nice fall down if you do happen to fall into the water, which you didn't. I noticed that you managed to stay afloat.
Yeah, it was a bit weedy under me, so I didn't want to go in.
True. Look, we do love to always ask our guests the same question because we are a love podcast. Could you let us know how you two met?
It's funny, we actually almost met several times before we met, and we laugh about this. It was 1 degree of separation, not even the 6 degrees of separation, but we look back at our lives before we had met and went, oh, wow, we almost met in that moment. One of them was... years ago in my previous marriage, I was living above a shop on Greville Street. That's where my first son was born, actually. And when we were living up in this apartment above a shop, and we had a little 6-month-old baby, and a friend of ours was coming over to visit us who knew Talia. And
I was living literally across the road from where Jem was, but I had been overseas travelling. And came back and was visiting a friend that owned the bar downstairs on the corner. And our mutual friend walked past and said, oh, I'm just going up to visit a friend of mine that lives upstairs. I was like, oh, yeah, cool, that's great.
And Tals had grown, this was on Greville Street in Melbourne, and Tals had actually grown up living above her mum's hairdressing salon, which was quite a famous hairdressing salon through the 80s and 90s on Greville Street. And she actually grew up living completely directly opposite where we were living, which was funny. So that was one time, and then there was another time we were both at a friend's wedding.
We were at the same wedding.
And it was a small wedding, boutique, and the reception was so small that you couldn't not meet everyone, right? I felt like I met everyone at the reception, and we were all partying all night together, and I felt, wow, this is really small and boutique, and I'm sure I've met everyone. Tales was at the same reception, but we never met, which was kind of funny.
No recollection, just none.
Yeah.
That's
so that was
wild.
That was the pre-stuff. And then when we did finally meet through a mutual friend at a house party, got along like a house on fire, which was great, and had a wonderful conversation, but both of us were still in our marriages at the time, so it was nothing more than that. And then we didn't really see each other for a couple of years, and then when we did bump into each other at a Led Zeppelin cover band gig at the corner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I went, what? You're into Zeppelin? And not only is Tales into Zeppelin, but knows every lyric to every song off every album. And I was like,
Guilty.
no way you love Zeppelin as much as I do. And that was it. That was the start of it.
Yeah, it was all on.
And by that point, both of you had separated from your partners, obviously. And wow.
So we both come out of 17-year marriages,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it never ceased to amaze me, the kismet that the universe uses to bring two people together. Like, the stories are just always so fascinating how, if, one thing had been different at the time, they never would have met. And it was kind of like the universe was going, you're there, but you're not quite ready yet to start this relationship. You're circling each other, but... Yeah, beautiful.
17 years is a long time to be with someone and then not be with them, and then suddenly you're thrust back into it again. Well, a couple of years later, you said. So that's it's great. Was there a proposal? How did that all go down?
We, up until now, and we don't like to pretend that we know the future, but up until now, we have both been very conscious about not getting married per se, although we do feel completely like we're life partners and we're going to hopefully get old together. But we haven't done the proposal. We haven't done the marriage thing. But and it was interesting. We both came out of 17-year marriages, and despite meeting a couple of years earlier and it not being the right time, when we did meet and started falling in love, it was actually pretty soon after the separations, and we both said, whoa, this is too soon.
Yeah, we can't do this yet. You know, we can't jump from one relationship into another, and, you know, let's not rebound.
So we really tried to not fall completely in love with each other so quickly, but we tried to our peril. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
We tried to stay apart and we couldn't do it.
Yeah,
wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. When you've got a Led Zeppelin soundtrack going on, it's pretty hard to do it.
Oh, yeah, nah. It's all
done.
on.
So then pretty soon into it, we just actually surrendered to it and said, you know what? We've got to surrender to this. We're completely falling madly in love with each other, and so let's just do this. And we did, and it's no turning back since then.
What was it about each other that became irresistible? Like, what was it that you really fell in love with about each other?
Oh gosh, how do you answer that? I think when you connect with somebody that just shares your values, for me, you know, finding someone that it's so easy to have a conversation with because, you know, you both really share, you care about the same stuff and you're interested in the same things, and, you know, you kind of vibe off each other on that level and you bring each other up, and you know, I think for me I find that really attractive.
Yeah. I think there's two things that are going on, hopefully, I think they're kind of essential for a relationship to work. There's the attraction, which is the polarity, and whether that attraction's happening through, you know, masculine and feminine energy or through some sense of polarity, that has to be there, right? That's the sexual attraction. And then there's also the stuff you have in common, the relationship. You know, you're into the same music, you like the same food, you both like to travel, you know, those sorts of things, which makes it easy to hang out with. So you've got your best friend as well. And when you're lucky enough to have both of those in good balance, and then also, you know, when Tales and I got together, we were both interested in the same workshops. We were both reading the same self-development books. We'd both go and study Tantra together, or both go and read the same David Data book, or, you know, we were into the same kind of personal development stuff. So we could go on that journey together, which meant that we enabled each other to keep kind of learning about relationships and to keep learning about ourselves, you know. So it just worked.
Yeah.
Mm. You both have children from your first marriages. How was that, bringing the kids together, you know, creating the blend?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I feel we were very sensible about it. And, you know, some people around us were like, why are you, you know, being so cautious, and why aren't you just living together? And, you know, we saw lots of other people do that and not necessarily have great outcomes with happy co-parenting situations.
Throwing all the kids under one roof.
Yeah. So we chose to keep our own houses and not move into one big house together. And we still have that.
We're week on, week off.
Yeah.
So it was funny when we saw your show as two bathrooms.
Yeah.
We've still got two houses, and we're week on, week off. So we're in the week when we've got our kids, I'm up at the farm in Belbray, which is a 2-minute drive, and I've got my boys up there, and Tales has her girl and boy down in Jan Juc. And then in the week when the kids go to their other parents, then we get to live together for a week with no kids.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's so, well, that would keep things fresh, I would imagine. Between
It does. Yeah, it does. It's funny because at the start we did it primarily for the kids. We just didn't want to throw all the kids under the one roof and kind of say, right, you guys have to sort it out. You're now one of 4 kids rather than one of 2. And we did it initially for them, but over the years we went, you know what, there's a lot of benefits for the relationship in this as well, you know. We see each other every day because we work together, and our studios that we've built are together. And the kids are all now happily blended. They all consider each other siblings finally, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
They've all grown up a fair bit now. It's been 8 years. So when we first got together, the kids were 11, 9, 8 and 6, and they're now about to turn 20, 18, you know, 17. They're older now. And they're all happy the way it is. So we all do family dinners and we go away camping together.
Yeah, we still do a lot together.
We're a family, but the kids have got their own space to go, and we've got our own space to go to each week, which is lovely.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like the kids are old enough now to appreciate the choice that you made in by having them not under one roof?
100%. Yeah.
They even express their gratitude to us as well.
What have been some of the benefits of that, do you think?
I think the kids got to still feel that they mattered to us as their parent. You know, I mean, I think if we had have completely put each other first and said, kids, just figure it out, we're in love and we want to live together full time, you're just going to have to deal with it. There would have been maybe subconscious or not even so subconscious, because we talk a lot with our kids. I think there would have been a bit of, oh, well, I'm second best to you. And not that there should be any ranking necessarily. And I've tried to explain to my sons that, you know, there's different types of love, and love is infinite and endless. And just because I love Talia as much as I do doesn't mean I can't still love you as much as I do as well. And, you know, we've had lots of conversations around that. But they certainly feel like they matter to us.
Yeah. And in the beginning, it wasn't that easy. There was definitely some speed humps. Like,
massive, yeah.
You know, when the kids were a bit younger, so they were still trying to work out how to regulate their own emotional, you know, selves. But yeah, I think, you know, we did it really well and it's worked well. And everyone's happy now.
One of the trickier things that I know blended families often face is when it comes to discipline. Did you sort of keep that, you know, same parents, same kids, or Jem, were you able to discipline Talia's kids? Like, how did you work those together?
Yeah, we've always avoided disciplining each other's kids. It's been very conscious of us to not do that. We've allowed each other to hold the responsibility of discipline with our own kids. It's tricky because we spend a lot of time with each other's kids and we love them to bits, and we view each other's kids as our own now because we've been together long enough, and I'd do anything for Tales's daughter and son. I would do anything for them. I completely love them and adore them, and they love me too. It's still a navigation. The step-parent role is still a navigation because I've always said to them, look, I'm not your dad. You've got a dad. I don't want to replace your dad. But I am Jem and I do care about you. And when you're with me, I want to make sure that you're okay. So if I feel to share my opinion or my ideas or my suggestions around something, I do it very carefully.
I think it's, you know, I mean, we're pretty lucky. Generally speaking, we share a lot of the same parenting ideas. Yeah. So, you know, our values are quite aligned. You know, that we do some things differently, but like Jem said, you know, I kind of step back from that and vice versa when it gets to the, you know, the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah.
But then I found that they come to us as well. Quite often they come to us, you know, and ask questions. Like I might have, you know, one of Jem's boys call me and say, oh, I need to ask like a mum kind of question, you know, and he'll call me and that's just beautiful. So, you know, it's lovely.
Absolutely.
New question, new deal. So you've created a brand new family. You're blended. Are there specific traditions that you have, routines that help kind of, I guess, galvanise the family?
Traditions. Well, we like to have a family meal together, like in our week, either with the kids or not. If we can, but it's harder now when they're older. You know, they all want to be with their boyfriends or girlfriends or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, one of them's about to turn 20. He just had his gap year and was travelling overseas, and he just started uni this week. So he's off doing his thing. Cool. Then the next one down, who's almost 18, wishing he was 25, and he's an apprentice carpenter, and he's in love with his girlfriend, and he's off doing his thing. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys know what it's like to have kids that grow up and start to have their own lives as well, yeah.
But coming together is really important for us. I mean, you come from a really big family. That's another funny thing. I'm an only child and I don't have any family here. They're all in Queensland. And Jem's got a huge, gigantic family here. So, you know, family and coming together is really important. And we try to get everyone together as much as possible.
Yeah,
so,
and we laugh about it. Tales used to say growing up, I wish I had a big family.
Careful what you wish for.
Careful what you wish for, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I'm starting to hum the Brady Bunch theme in my
Yeah.
Hey,
it's like that.
A quick question then. So you said the kids were in their early teens when you guys got together. Certainly cell phones have been around since then. Did you put sort of rules in place around screens early?
Yeah. I mean, we've always tried to have some rules around it. That's one of the parenting rules that was slightly different. My screen time was more than Tales's screen time, and that's where it helped having the two homes when we had our kids, because Talia could have the restrictions that felt comfortable for her with screen time, and I could have the ones that felt comfortable for me. If we had been all under the one roof, that's a good example of what might have been
would have been
trickier.
arguments.
But for us it was the kids got a phone when they got to high school. They weren't allowed to have a phone before high school, and they got one then. I don't know, it's an interesting thing with the phones. With one of my boys, I've been kind of lucky in a way, because he's a full outdoor action hero. Like, he's got to be surfing or skating or playing footy or socialising with his mates. He goes nuts if he's sitting inside for too long. So that's been a natural kind of barometer to get him off the screen. He loves the outdoors. And the other one, look, he loves his screen time as well, but he's a good kid, and he studied hard at school, and he's passionate about things that get him away from his screen as well. And yeah, it's interesting. I think you kind of have to navigate it as you go. I heard some good advice from someone back when the kids were in primary school, and those cyber awareness nights where you can go as a parent with your kids and they give you information.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces of advice that I heard that really resonated with me, they said, when your kids go online, they're going out into the world, and you should want to know where they are and who they're hanging out with. It's like if they were going to leave the house as a young kid and they said, hi, Dad, I'm going out for a while. You'd be like, oh, where are you going? Who are you hanging out with, right? It's the same in cyber world. You want to know what they're into. So be interested, So I got interested. I'd go and sit and say, hey, show me the game you're playing, and what do you do, and who are you playing with, and how do you play it? And so I'd find out about Fortnite, or I'd find out about, whatever game they were playing. And rather than trying to just say, turn it off, it was about, what are you into? What are you fascinated in? Or, like the other day, Tales's boy, who loves YouTube, was on YouTube, and rather than just saying, get off your screen, which I wouldn't do anyway, but I went up to him and said, oh, I'm really curious. What are you YouTubing? And he goes, oh, let me show you. And he loves sneakers. And he was YouTubing, going down this rabbit hole of sneakers. I'm like, wow, there is a whole world of sneakers out there I had no idea about.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's a fairly safe thing to be looking at.
Oh, yeah, I was relieved. I was relieved. I'm like, sneakers,
totally.
Go there.
Sneakers,
you can do sneakers, yeah.
You're spending, $3,000 on a pair of Yeezys.
Yeah, that's right.
He would if he could, trust me.
It's also, you mentioned the word before, that the kids know that they matter. And I think that being curious or wanting to know that, it does sort of move into that world that they do know that they matter to you, and that you do give a crap about them. So they'd probably be more willing to share.
Yeah, look, I think so. And my experience with boys who are coming out of their teenage years now, but teenage boys go through that period, and girls to a certain degree, but I think boys more go through that period where you're lucky if you get a grunt out of them. How was your day? Well, did you have a good day? Yeah. Like one word syllable answers, right? And so for me, what I tried to do was to be interested.
Yeah.
Like to actually make the time
curious.
to sit down and get curious and go, how are you going? Where are you at? And, ask them open-ended questions just to try and elicit a bit more than a grunt out of them. And look, it didn't always work, but it did set up a relationship where the boys feel safe to talk to me about anything. We talk about pretty much everything and anything. So that I think that worked in some way.
Yeah, and that's something that we both have in common, is really creating that safe place for them to be able to speak. So I think that's where we do align as parents, is that all four of our children know that, that they don't have to hide things from us. They don't have to lie to us. They don't, we hold the space for them to tell us whatever they want, and quite often it will be late at night when you're trying to get them into bed and you're like thinking, oh, I just need to get into bed, I'm so tired. And then, they'll be like, oh, so Mum, you're like, oh, okay, all right, I'm going to come and sit down on your bed. Tell me what's up.
Well, it's not
really, I just want to get into bed.
Kids. I did it to my wife last night. I know she wanted to go to bed, and I've opened up a whole box of bloody conversation. I'm like, I just want to, because I want to talk, and it's 10:30.
True.
We've
just our eldest is now 27, and she's actually overseas, and she just was telling us the other day. She's just finished a course on like conscious conflict. And it was so exciting because we've been into all of that world for so long and been doing so much work on ourselves and therapy and courses and everything. And we've never sort of said to our kids, oh, do this, do that. It's just been like through osmosis, we hope. And to hear that she chose to do it with her boyfriend, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And to have now be in that conversation. Have you seen any of that in your kids? I know you were both very passionate about, psychology and evolving yourselves. Are you sort of seeing any of that in your kids?
Funny you should say that. This is my trick. I keep books. We've got a little book holder in the toilet, next to the toilet. And every now and then I kind of think, what do I hope that they might pick up and read? Yeah. So I had one of Dr. Nicole LaPera's books, How to Do the Work, in there. And, and I noticed that I know when I put it down in a certain way, if it's moved, that it's been picked up. Yeah. And my 14-year-old son was in there yesterday and it was moved after he came out. So I was like, ooh, that's a good sign.
Was there a dog ear and a new place?
Not that I'm aware of yet, but he did come out and about 10 minutes later said to me, Mum, thank you so much for everything you do for me. You're such a good mum. It might sound like I'm asking you for things all the time, but I know that, you're just so helpful and I love you and I don't mean to keep asking for things, but, thank you. And I was like, oh. Beautiful.
Yeah. I remember a time with one of my boys. We've been running retreats overseas for years. So we run retreats in the Himalaya in India and a retreat in Bali and also here in Australia. And I love meditation. It's just part of my life. It's something that I find really helpful. But I've never said to my boys, you should meditate. But they know I meditate daily. And anyway, this one morning it was beautiful in our little villa in this gorgeous resort up in northern Bali, north of Ubud, where we used to run retreats before the pandemic. And one morning I came out on the balcony and there's my son, and he was quite young at the time. I think he was, 7 or 8 years old. And he was sitting on the ledge of the balcony in a meditation pose with his eyes closed. I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous. And so I just sat there quietly. He didn't know I was there. And he sat there for about 10 minutes. And then he opened his eyes and turned around and I went, hi, Noah, what were you doing? And he goes, I was meditating, Dad. And I'm like, that's great. What were you thinking? And he goes, oh, nothing. I was just sitting here. I was like, oh, that's really gorgeous. And then beautiful. Just one more example, just recently. So watching him fall in love, properly falling in love, and they're really he and his girlfriend are so gorgeous together. They're at the ripe old age of 17. Yeah. And the other day I said to him, hey, Noah, I just want to say I'm so proud of the way you treat Scarlett. I'm so proud of the way you consider her first all the time and the way you treat her. You're so lovely to her. And he just looked at me and he said, where do you reckon I get it from, Dad?
Oh, my gosh.
That's a win.
It's
those parenting moments.
That is everything. Like you take that to the grave, don't you? That's like you remember that for your life. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you have quickly for other couples with blended families based on what you guys have been through? Clearly you're doing a great job.
I think, look, for us at the start, when it was tricky for the kids, I mean, this relationship, this might sound, I don't know what this sounds like, but for us, our relationship has never been tricky. It's actually been remarkably easy and conscious. So we're very, very grateful for how easy it is for us to be together. It was tricky for the kids in the beginning, and we used to just say to each other, as long as we just show up as ourselves and just show up coming from a place of kindness and love and consistency, just consistently be us, the kids will figure it out. They will figure it out. And over time, that turned out to be true. And the kids trust us now as a relationship, and they trust us as individuals, and they know that, what they were seeing at the start that they might not have trusted because it was all fresh and new. They know now this is just the way we are. They see that we're never mean to each other. We never shout at each other. We're just kind and nice to each other. And so for them, they're getting to see an example of what a relationship can be like, which is a relief for us, because as you guys said before, the osmosis thing, we hope that the modelling, that they just inherently kind of take that on and then live that later on,
Yeah, I think consistency, just showing up with that consistency is probably the best tip. Hanging in there and trusting that if you just keep being you and keep coming from the right place with a good heart and leading with love, when the kids see love, they know love.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's important. Eventually, even if they don't trust it initially, there might be all sorts of things being told to them, or, that they've got to make up their own mind about how they feel about this new dynamic. And, when you just keep showing up with that safety in the consistency, eventually they get it.
Yeah. And I love what you said before too about, every parent, no, I don't say every parent, but we often go, of course the kids know that we love them. Well, if you're with a different partner now, they might feel second best. And the fact that both of you continue to put your children first, and they know that now as they've gotten older, they can look back and go, we never felt like we were bested by, either of you. Then I think that's really beautiful, because it clearly made them feel safe and secure with their own parent and not being replaced somehow. So, yeah, we often assume that the kids know they're loved, and sometimes they don't feel loved, So
Yeah, and it's a balance, because, for me, I wanted Talia also to feel so like how I felt about her, which was that she is my queen, my goddess, and so precious, and I, that I will do anything for her. And so there's a balance. And one of my boys, the other one didn't go through this, but one of them did go through this. He did, and we've spoken about it since. But when he was younger, he did feel like I'd made Talia more important than him, despite all of our efforts not to do that. But he did feel that, and it hasn't been until he's grown up a bit. And also experiencing what it's like to be in love. And he said to me, wow, Dad, I get it now. I get it. I get why you do everything that you do for Talia. I understand it. So it just took a bit of time.
Yeah, sure.
Were you aware of him feeling like that back at that moment?
Yeah, couldn't not be aware of it. He was playing out in ways that were really hard to parent.
Right.
It was really tricky.
Gotcha.
It's like, whoa, this is going on right now, and just trying to, we don't get a guidebook as parents, right? We just stumble along trying our best, and stuffing it up quite often, and but just trying to figure it out as we go along, right? So that's where I was, and it was tricky. It was really tricky.
So true.
Yeah, and it's like he said, you don't get the perspective until you're actually you're in the trenches yourself doing it. And I guess he will be a parent maybe one day, and he'll get that similar thing going on. He goes, Jesus, Dad, now I get it.
Yeah. And we've talked about this a lot recently too, that, now our kids are, 27, 23 and 18. They're now talking about the things that were hurtful to them as kids that we did as parents. And as absolutely agonizing it is, I'm so grateful that they feel safe enough to talk to us about it. But things that I had no idea that was hurtful to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that. Yeah. And now it's like gut-wrenching, but at the same time, it's, you get to do your best to repair. But it's a wild ride, this parenting thing.
Yeah, and the worst thing,
it's a wild ride.
Yeah, the worst thing is to defend yourself, I reckon, in those moments when they are telling you stuff.
Yeah,
it's just to shut up and listen to it. Don't try and defend it. Don't try and be right.
Yeah.
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 Just
Absolutely.
Listen. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the moment that you jump in and try and defend, which is the ego's natural reaction, but if you jump in and try and defend your behaviour or your actions or whatever it was, in that moment you're showing them that you're not listening.
That's right.
And like you said, Cam, to just sit and listen and seek to understand and let them feel heard is really important. And then I think then the personal work to do afterwards in your own time of reflection is self-forgiveness. You know, you were trying your best.
Yeah.
And you might have stuffed up royally, you might have lost your temper, whatever happened, right? But you were trying your best and you didn't know how to do it any better in that moment because you didn't know what you know now, right? So I think self-forgiveness is
self-compassion.
Self-compassion, it's a really important part of it.
I know this might be putting you on the spot a bit, and it's a big question, but can you share any defining moment or experience that led you to actually focus on mindfulness in your personal and professional lives?
I had what people refer to as a midlife crisis, but for me it was a midlife awakening / opportunity, and this was before Talia and I had met. But I got to a point in my life where I had really spiraled into a very secret torture, but the torture internally I figured out later on was just this belief that I wasn't good enough. And our internal beliefs tend to be the lenses through which we experience what's going on all around us, and we tend to match our beliefs with our experience of life, right? Yeah. So if you believe you're not good enough, we can sabotage, or we can have imposter syndrome, or we can, attract evidence to back up our belief. And anyway, to cut a long story short, in my early 40s, I lost my job, ended up losing the marriage, losing the house, losing all my belongings, kept my 2 boys week on, week off, but really came to a point of complete clarity of, wow, I've had this belief that I'm not enough. And then I went to work on myself, and that's when, it's funny how the right books just happen to appear in your life and you read the right books at the right time. So I went to work on repairing that, changing that belief to that I am enough and I do deserve happiness and love and all of those things. And that's when I started a practice of mindfulness meditation as part of the self-work. And it was interesting because it wasn't until I started to believe that I was good enough and that I did deserve this kind of love that I'm experiencing now. It wasn't until I believed it and was living it that then this relationship showed up, not the other way around. Right. So it's when you do the work on yourself and you elevate yourself to some kind of, this might sound a bit woo-woo, but when you elevate yourself to some sort of vibrational level or consciousness, that's when you attract someone who's also kind of hanging around in the same space, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. How about for you, Talia?
Yeah, for me, I guess mindfulness really mostly comes in the form of movement for me. I'm really passionate about mindful movement. So I, have been in the Pilates world for quite a long time now, about 15 years. And for me, that's my meditation, bringing my mind and my body together. Something I'm really passionate about because we all race around in our world out there. Life is busy. And I love being able to take the moments to slow down, breathe, bring that mindfulness into my body, my awareness into my body. And I guess that's what I do. I help other people with that too. So for me, it's more about that maintaining daily balance in life with that mindfulness and mind-body connection.
So that leads us to the next piece of your retreats that you're doing, and you've got them in Bali. You've got them in the Himalayas. Is that what you said before?
Yeah, northwestern India.
So you're doing them all over. You're doing them around the world. How did this come about, and to be in such exotic locations?
It came about.
We love to travel.
We do love to travel. We do love to travel. The Himalaya one came about because there's a family in a village in the foothills of the Himalayas in northwestern India that I fell in love with back in the 90s when I was a barefoot, dreadlocked hippie seeking spiritual enlightenment, walking around India like a bunch of us did. And I stumbled across this family and ended up living with them for months and months, and they adopted me, and I've been a part of their family ever since. And the first time I was there in 1998, I said to their son, who is like my brother, I said, I've got a feeling I'm going to bring people here, and I don't know what that looks like, but I want to get people away from there were no screens back then, but away from their microwaves and their computers and their businesses and their ties and suits, and get them away and get them into this beautiful nature, because the nature there is stunning. Anyway, long story short, years and years later, when I started my coaching practice, I realised it was a leadership program, and so I started taking business owners there on a remote leadership retreat, and we walk very, very remote, off the grid. Your phone doesn't work. There's no people where we go. We've got pack horses and guides, and it was this experience. Then Talia and I met and started falling in love, and I was like, hey, I do this thing in India. I'd love to take you with me. And Tal said, oh my God, I've always wanted to go to India. I'm trying to give you the dot point version. So then Talia started coming with me.
Yep.
And then I said, hey, we could run these retreats together. And Tal said, oh, no, you do it. I'll just support in the background. And gradually, Talia felt more and more comfortable with the content that I share on the retreats to start taking pieces of it and sharing it as well. And then we designed a relationship retreat called The Conscious Couple here in Australia. And initially, I was sharing most of the content, but gradually as Tales felt more and more comfortable. And so now we co-facilitate our retreats together.
Do you handle more of the physical, that mind-body, Talia? Is that your role in that because of your background? Yeah, beautiful. How does that work on the retreat for you?
It's beautiful. I like to start the day, set it up with some, breathing and some meditation. And I think it just gives everyone an opportunity to set the day straight. Then we move into more movement. So just waking up all of the bits in the body and doing it mindfully. I think just bringing people out of their busy heads into their bodies, to kind of have more awareness. Which
is beautiful, because then it opens them up to any potential aha moments or light bulb moments through the content the conversations we then have through the course. So it works really well.
Yeah, I like to bring them sometimes when people come away, they might have ideas or expectations around what they're going to get from it. And I think the beautiful thing about running retreats together is that quite often they come away with something completely different than what they thought they were going to.
Yeah.
And I just think that setting up the day, each day, with that mind-body connection and that mindful movement gives them that clarity to kind of go fresh into whatever it is that's coming their way without thinking too much or without overthinking. It gets them out of their head into their body, which then opens up space for what's coming.
Which also works in conjunction with the other components, and the reason that we ask people to go a long way away from home and what's comfortable in their normal paradigm to fly into a foreign country where the sights and smells and sounds and the foods and everything is completely foreign, and then to go on the hero's journey of getting up into this village. It's not easy to get to, so it's a mission to get there, and then when you're there with the beautiful, stunning nature, and you're out of your normal paradigm, and then starting the day, as Talia just explained, it really does open people's perspective, and they're more open to a new way of seeing things.
Yeah. We've been on a couple of retreats in our time. How I always find it's a lot easier at the retreat to immerse yourself in what's going on. It's like, for want of a better way, you're drinking the Kool-Aid because you're with everybody else, and you're up on the mountain and breathing the fresh air and you're doing all that wonderful stuff. So then when the retreat's over and you've returned home to your inner city apartment away from all that loveliness, how do you teach people or encourage people, or what do you say to them when they get home and to kind of hang on to those bits that they've opened themselves up to, all that wonderfulness?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And on the last day of the Himalaya, also when we were running the retreat in Bali, on the last day of the retreat, there is a session which is completely dedicated to that. I call it the assimilation day. So we talk about how are you going to assimilate where you've come to in your own version of yourself now with when you get back home. And we have conversations about how when you get home, not only will the people around you at home have not really changed as much as you possibly, but also there's this unconscious trying to drag you back to the way you were because they know you in the relationship. Right. And you might have had this kind of enlightening understanding of yourself and life, and you want to go in that direction. But some people try and drag you back to the way you were, which is an interesting phenomenon. And then the other thing too that we say to them is, if you've had a really kind of mind-blowing experience here, when you get home, please don't make any really, really big decisions straight away. Like, don't leave your partner, don't quit your job. Just wait until everything calms down, till the dust settles.
Advice. Yeah.
You know, and then the other thing we do too is that we ask them to set up with an accountability partner, a buddy, and so that when they get home, they stay in touch with each other and they support each other through assimilating whatever it is that they've learnt. And then a month after we get home, we have a reunion, if everyone can get to it. Sometimes there's people from overseas who can't, but if they're in Australia, we bring them all back together again so they can kind of check in and go, how's the month been for you coming back from the mountains, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
And Talia, do they continue to sometimes work with you in the physical way? Have you had some people find you at your studio, or is it too hard if they're scattered all over the world?
Yeah, usually, that's usually the case. They're kind of from here, there and everywhere. So, you know, like if they come down to visit down the coast, they might pop in. But usually that's, you know, over a glass of wine and some cheese somewhere, not in the studio.
Sure. Have you got another one planned? Have you got one coming up at all?
We've got 2 that are planned this year. So we've got the Conscious Couple, which we're running in our studios here in Torquay in Victoria. That's on the 25th and 26th of May. Just a 2-day couples workshop, I'd say, more than a retreat so much.
Yeah.
And then we're running a Conscious Connection conference in the Himalaya in September, last week of September, which is really exciting.
What does that look like, the Himalayas one? What would people find there?
Yeah, so they get themselves to Kulu Airport up in the Himalaya.
The most beautiful little airport that you'll ever see.
Yeah, it's got quite a short runway because it's up in the mountains, and so they can't fill the plane when they leave because the plane would be too heavy and it wouldn't get in the air before the runway ran out. So it's this tiny, gorgeous little airport. But they fly, and when you descend down into this airport, you're descending down in amongst the Himalaya. So you're flying in between the mountains. It's really beautiful. And so we pick them up from the airport in the 4-wheel drives and we get them up to our homestay, which is up on the side of a mountain in a beautiful little Krishna temple. And it's a real homestay, and they get invited in by our family, which is quite unique. And a lot of our clients who've come away to India have said, wow, you know, if I just went on a tour program with a tour company, there is no way I could have been welcomed into the heart of a family immediately.
Let alone a holy family, you know, that live at the temple and invite you into ceremony, and it's really unique and special.
Yeah. So, and they've got a yoga studio there. One of their daughters is a yoga teacher, and so we use the yoga studio for our stuff, and we have a few days there. On this conference, we're inviting entrepreneurs who are passionate about in some way positively impacting humanity. That's who we're inviting. And they get to showcase their work and what they do in front of each other. I'm hoping that there will be some connections formed that are really special and end up in collaboration. And I'm hoping that people in those connections will multiply each other's efficacy in terms of their positive impact. Then we trek for a few days up into the mountains and we go beautifully remote. And then we come back and have a few more days to tidy it all up. And Talia will obviously teach her mindful movement, and I'll teach some mind masterclasses. And it's a week, and then they get to fly home.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Amazing. Hey, just before we wind this up, how do you guys do your checks and balances? How are you growing as facilitators, and what sort of things do you do to evolve as teachers and trainers?
The other day, remember we said, let's go to that event in Sydney?
Oh, yep.
What is that event that we're going to? Wellness conference.
Some expo.
A wellness expo. So we'll see things and go, oh, wow, we could learn something there.
Yeah, right.
Let's go to that, you know. And there's a wellness expo coming up. I can't remember the name of it, but it's coming up. And they're actually doing it in Sydney and then down in Melbourne as well. And it would have been easier for us to go to the one in Melbourne. But we said to each other, let's use the excuse to get away and go up and do it in Sydney, you know. So,
But I think in general, you know, I mean, you're always listening to podcasts or watching interviews. Like, you have more time as far as driving and listening time. I have quite a big team of staff and beautiful people that working in the space in the studio. And for me, I'm constantly wanting to inspire them. So it's really around, I enjoy mentoring in that space and in that capacity, and not just going off and doing specifically Pilates stuff, which I'm always working on in the background, but really looking at how can I help my team, how can I inspire them in all of the ways to be the best versions of themselves. So, I thrive on that kind of stuff for myself, as we do as a couple, and then bringing that into, to my team and into the workspace. And, I just love building the relationships and helping other people to grow as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do a thing called the 2-minute shower, Jem and Talia. And so we'd like you to answer.
Can you teach our daughter how to do that?
Teenage girl, not a chance. Not a chance.
Rather than the half-hour shower?
Yeah, so nice quick shower, nice quick answers. Can you both answer the question? First question.
Yes.
Okay.
What Led Zeppelin song would your wedding dance be?
I knew that was going to come up somehow.
Just made that up on the spot.
I want you to answer it though, because I'm a Led Zepp fan.
Ooh. Oh, that's really hard.
I'm going Houses of the Holy, track number 4. Okay. What's that one called? Anyway.
I don't know that a lot of the love songs are quite, they're not necessarily about love.
Could be Kashmir.
It could be, I don't know. I'd probably say 10 years gone.
Go. All right. Thank you, Led Zepp fans.
Yeah, there you go.
You're covered.
The important question done.
Yeah.
What habit does your partner have that you find adorable?
When Talia's tasting food, but really, really concentrating on tasting whatever she's tasting, she does this gorgeous thing with her mouth where she kind of moves her mouth in this really, really cute way, and nobody else would notice it, but I notice it every time she does it. My heart melts. It's crazy.
There's quite a few, but I would probably say that when Jem gets out of the shower, he has this really cute little habit of putting the towel holding the towel in his teeth as he gets out and kind of brushes the water off first. I find that really cute. So he's
it's a modesty thing, isn't it?
With the towel in his mouth.
A modesty thing, hiding my beer belly.
All right. What is it about your relationship that makes you feel grateful?
Oh, God, so many things. Like we say almost on a daily basis how grateful we are for this relationship. I think that we just communicate so easily, and so well. That's for me.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that there's no eggshells. There's no eggshells, and that to me is massive, and that comes from our ability that we've cultivated and been conscious around trying to always get better at. But yeah, like Tal said, our ability to communicate about anything and everything easily, I'm very, very grateful for that.
What do you miss when you're not together?
Each other. I reckon crawling into bed at night, because we have 2 houses still. It's just the nicest thing to climb into bed together and have a little snuggle.
Yeah. Yeah. I miss that too. What do I miss? I miss our cuddles on the couch when we're, the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Yeah. And so our top love languages are different, which is great because we've got to learn each other's love languages. But we both share in our top 2, we both share physical touch, which is just so lovely because when we're on the couch watching a movie or watching the telly or whatever, we're always in some way touching. We're always snuggled up in some way. And I love that, and when we're not together, I miss it.
Last question. 1 word to describe each other.
Loving.
Oh.
You are.
Generous. Very generous with everybody.
And no eggshells.
And no eggshells.
Love it. Thanks, guys, so much for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us on, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jem and Talia. That was fantastic. I enjoyed that.
Would you do that retreat in the Himalayas?
Yeah, I would. I would.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does.
What a beautiful thing to do as a couple to facilitate people's growth and learning. Like, that's really lovely.
Yeah, and how they've blended a family too, because there are a lot of people, as we said at the beginning, that are in the midst of it, or about to do it, or on the other side of it to varying degrees of success. So, no, they're great. Jem, Fuller, and Talia, his
Indeed.
wife. Well, not wife, partner.
Partner. Yeah.
Got the research wrong on that one.
Yeah, actually,
I thought they were married.
I know. I thought they were too, but I guess there wasn't actually anywhere that said they were married. But I realise that now, like in hindsight, I'm like, there wasn't anything that specifically said marriage. They did always say
So it was
partner.
just an assumption.
We assumed.
Made an ass out of you and me.
That's
in that
correct.
moment. No more asses required, or eggshells. We're not walking on eggshells.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. It's great. All right, listen, we'll catch up with you on the next episode of Separate Bathrooms. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for listening. Bye.